Thanks.
Bravo.
Thanks.
Those are some great lyrics. That
Appreciate
last,
that.
that last tune, you prefaced it by mentioning for your late father. There's a great lyric in that. Always looking up to, I'm going to screw it up, but people coming down and then
Someone falling down.
yeah, and then symptoms of a man at a
Operating at a
loss, right? Operating at a loss.
Yeah.
Can you talk to that a little bit, if you want to?
Yeah. My father was an interesting person. Definitely had some issues with drugs and alcohol throughout his life, and I'd say his biggest issue was with his mood in his childhood. So he was kind of always operating at a loss in some sense or another, and he eventually took his own life, which was rather unfortunate for a lot of us. But that's kind of where the subtext of that comes from.
I'm sorry to hear that. That's very rough. It dovetails into the next question about lyric writing, and but given the reality of that, I would suggest that that's a hell of a great lyric for in tribute. It's nuanced, that sort of captures it, when people are impacted that way with drug and alcohol or other issues. The operating at a loss thing, that jumped out at me. That is really good for you to put it that way.
Thanks.
Yeah, some really, really artful writing in a lot of those songs. I want to talk to the art of songwriting a little bit with you. You made fun of the love song, but it reminds me of Paul McCartney in response to John Lennon. This is post Beatles, after they were out.
Yeah.
I don't know if Lennon critiqued Paul's songwriting or not, but Paul was taking a lot of hits for writing just goofy love songs, and so then he wrote Just Another Silly Love Song, or whatever that one was, and that one became a huge hit.
Oh yeah.
So some self-awareness there, and poppy nature of lyrics that people can all jump behind. You can sometimes get a hit out of that. So
yeah. That's the idea.
Yeah. The Boston song.
Yeah.
Talk to that. Where did that come from? You had mentioned getting lost in Boston, and you had a pass on the T all day.
Yeah.
Sounded like there was a little more going on in that song, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's partially an impression of some experiences I had there, and impressions of experiences I had with some people there. And Boston really struck me. I never went there until later in my life, and the first time I ever showed up there, I was waiting on somebody for about 7 hours. So I just started to explore, and I call that song Plastic Roses, because that's kind of the sentiment that I get from Boston. I remember walking around and seeing these big imposing buildings and feeling the crushing machine of the life all around me and the work and just the busyness of it, and I just couldn't understand why anybody would want to live there. I hated it, and I've grown to love it. I'm not a city person, but that's my favorite city for sure.
Yeah. But the metaphor of plastic roses, that's it's also akin to like the term lipstick on a pig in a way.
Yeah.
For country mice guys like us, cities are a little tough to wrap our heads around, for sure. We are live from the underground here with Sage Hatfield here on this September 8th. Some great singer-songwriter tunes here that he's been playing with us. And you, speaking of origins, you come to us from Brattleboro, Vermont, yeah? That area?
Brattleboro, Putney.
And you, but before that, as a little kid, Salt Lake City, but I don't know how much of that was part of your background with regard to music. I want to kind of set her down on when did you start? Was it And how does Brattleboro kind of relate to, and Vermont relate to your music?
Well, my earliest memory is really climbing up on my grandma's piano and trying to figure out the opening riff to Fur Elise by Beethoven. So music's always been a part of my life, and I took classical piano lessons for about 8 years or so as a kid. And then when I was like 12, I picked up a guitar and I went, ooh, baby, here we go.
Right.
And I feel like there's a lot of like New England lore and references in a lot of my music. I don't try to make it too explicit or anything. It kind of works its way in, referring to like the seasons or places in town or spots,
Right. Right, and I bring it up also because I know, Sage's new album is Leftover Bliss, if I got that right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a debut?
Yeah, it's my debut.
Right on, and it's on Oak Honest Records, and I know that that's a burgeoning scene down there, so I wondered, what is going on down there. I know Bellas Falls for years was a hotbed of live music, and they had a lot of great festivals in Bellas Falls about 20 years ago for about a dozen years. Tell us what's going on in Brattleboro and with you and Oak Honest Records.
We got a bunch of really talented cats on the label, and there's a lot of live music going on.
Yeah. If you get closer to the mic, we
Sorry.
might hear you better.
I'm mic shy.
Yeah, no problem.
But yeah, the music scene in Brattleboro was always great. When I was first living there, you could walk around town almost any given night and run into like 5 or 6 different concerts. You just find the music and follow it to a house or a venue or a basement. And then COVID stopped everything for a while, and now it's making its way back in a more formal setting than I've seen it in a long time. There are a lot of shows at restaurants and stuff going on, and the Stone Church, beautiful venue down there, is consistently having music, and everybody's really hungry for live music, I would say. So there's a lot of great listeners as well as great musicians.
Yeah, there must be, because the diversity of music coming out that I hear coming out of Brattleboro, and those Stone Church shows is really incredible.
Yeah.
Very diverse, neat stuff. I know on your label, like I mentioned earlier when we were talking, you got a comedian who's a storyteller, who's also a music lover, and he's got jazz going on behind him, and he's doing crazy great stuff. And Derek, of course, the label head, and just 2 years, and there's like maybe 10 titles or something on that record label. It looks like
That sounds about right. Yeah. And he's always looking to expand it too.
Right on. So Leftover Bliss. These are songs that you've written. Are they all originals on Leftover Bliss?
Yeah, they're all originals.
Right on.
Yeah, written over a period of time. Really was more or less an attempt to get all the old songs I had written out there before I was totally sick of them. So there's only really a couple rather new ones on there. But it needed to happen. It was time.
Nice. What had held you up before that? Or why now? Why? How did it happen to come out? It just a couple months ago, right?
Yeah, I think 3 months.
Seems like you've been brewing with some talent for a while.
Yeah, I've always loved music, and I always wanted to do stuff like this when I was a kid, and I just thought for a long time that there was no great reason to, or that I wasn't good enough, or that nobody would care, or whatever. So I just kind of put that all on the back burner for a long time and focused on other things. But I was always writing songs. And then after my father passed, there was like a really big pause in my life. And a lot of music just started pouring out of me that I wanted to share more. So I finally found myself in a position with a friend of mine, Oscar Newton, who's an amazing producer, recording engineer, and he just helped me cobble a thing together, and it happened very naturally, I would say.
Nice. Well, the classical training obviously found its way. If you had an aha moment with the guitar, it shows your ease, with the neck. It seems like You know your way around the guitar fairly well. I don't know, how many years have you been playing?
Since I was 12.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
26 now, and I'm really bad at math, so a while.
Yeah. Well, there's no reason you shouldn't be doing fine noodling on the neck. The the artist that comes to mind most for geezers like me of your sound, and tell me if you've heard this before and how you feel about it. But you have a sound quite a bit like Elliott Smith.
Yeah.
Have you heard that before?
I hear that at least once every time I play out.
Yeah. I figured. And that's why I posed it that way, because it's probably irritating, and I don't know if it is or not, but was that
not really
an influence that you had been aware of when you started, or that you have adapted your sound to?
Well, I take it as a compliment. He was a master songwriter, by the way. But I feel like my music has always sounded the way that it sounds, more or less. And I tried listening to Elliott Smith a number of years ago. I exhausted his whole catalog a few times, and I was like, man, this guy's just whiny and quiet. And then finally it sunk in one day, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is kind of similar to the music I write and the vibe. But he was never an initial influence. I was really into like Nirvana and Alice in Chains and Stone Temple Pilots, especially their MTV Unplugged stuff.
Right,
I always wanted to be like an acoustic grunge artist when I was a kid. Nice. And even acoustic J Mascis kind of comes to mind a little bit, in a way, to me. I don't know why. Something, I don't know what it is, but something about your sound reminds me of J Mascis. I don't know why. Maybe it's an era thing also, because the folks that you just mentioned and Elliott Smith to some extent are all of a certain era. Yeah. Maybe. Well, great. So the new album is out and done, and you're playing out. Yeah. And where are we looking for you to play out? I've got a show tomorrow in Londonderry at the New American Grill. My old stomping ground. I grew up in Londonderry. Nice. Yeah, and other things are forming. I forget exactly where. I think actually the Collective in Brattleboro, the last bar standing, more or less. That'll be the last Friday of this month, and more will be posted on the internet as it forms. Great. Well, would you play a couple more for us, and then we'll come back in about 10 minutes and just close it out, and we'll look forward to a couple more tunes here. Right on. Yeah, definitely. Thank you.